Chosen one, why does your own house feel like enemy territory? Why do the people who share your blood feel like strangers wearing familiar faces? Why at this stage of your life does the silence in your home scream louder than any argument ever did? Chosen one, the danger surrounding you right now is not coming from the outside. It's coming from the place that once felt safe. Listen to me carefully. That unease crawling up your spine at Theraim, that's not paranoia. That heaviness pressing on your chest when you wake up, that's not just age. That knowing feeling that something's watching, waiting, circling your life like a vulture over roadkill, that's real. You're not losing your mind. You're under spiritual observation. I don't know if you're sitting in your kitchen right now, coffee gone cold, staring at your phone wondering why your own children don't call anymore. I don't know if you're lying in that bed, the one that used to hold two but now swallows you whole in emptiness. But I know this, you didn't stumble onto this message. You were intercepted. Heaven reached through the algorithm, through the noise, through the numbness, and grabbed you by the collar. Because, beloved, you are standing at a railroad crossing of destiny, and the train is approaching faster than you think. Something has been stalking your spirit for months now, not to destroy you, but to test if you're still awake, to see if decades of disappointment have put you to sleep, or if there's still fire in those bones. The enemy knows something about you that you've forgotten about yourself. He knows that if you wake up, truly wake up, his time terrorizing your bloodline is over. That's why he sent betrayal through your own family. That's why he orchestrated your isolation. That's why the very people who should protect you have become the ones who wound you deepest. You thought you were being forgotten. You were being positioned. Before we go deeper into what's hunting you and why God allowed it, I want to pause and honor those of you who've supported this message through super thanks. You're not just giving, you're joining a spiritual battalion. You're funding the very words that pull others from the pit you climbed out of. Whether you sow or not, I'm grateful you're here. Your time, your attention, your open heart, it all matters. And if something in your spirit already knows this is your moment, go ahead and let that seed fall on good ground. But right now, if your chest is tight, if something inside you just whispered, "This is for me." If you feel heaven leaning in, I need you to do one thing. Type, "I'm listening" in the comments. Not for me, for heaven. Let the angels record that you're still awake. Because what I'm about to reveal will explain why your life has felt like a battlefield, why peace has been a stranger, and why God himself paused your timeline until this exact moment. The danger is real, chosen one, but so is the plan to save you. How many times have you almost gone back? How many times has that old phone number sat in your contacts like a loaded gun, and your finger hovered over it at 2 a.m.? How many times have you stood at the edge of a decision that felt like relief but smelled like regret? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your foundation. The danger you're in right now isn't what you think it is. It's not the devil showing up with horns and a pitchfork. It's not some dramatic spiritual attack that announces itself with thunder and lightning. The real danger is far more subtle, far more deadly, and it's been whispering in your ear for months. You see, beloved, there are 3 layers of danger circling your life right now like sharks in dark water. And if you don't recognize them, they will devour the destiny God has been protecting all these years. The first danger is the danger of going back. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That relationship that almost destroyed you. That habit that kept you in chains for 20 years. That toxic environment you finally escaped. That version of yourself you worked so hard to bury. And now, right now, it's calling your name again. Maybe it's that friend who resurfaced after 5 years of silence. The one who only appears when they need something. The one who drains your peace and leaves you feeling emptier than before. Or maybe it's that family member who treated you like garbage for decades, but now that you've got a little money saved, Suddenly they remember your address. Or maybe, and this cuts deepest, it's that ex-spouse. The one who shattered your heart into 1,000 pieces. The one who made you question your worth, your sanity, your very existence. And now they're texting. Now they're calling. Now they're showing up at the places they know you'll be. And something in you, something tired, something lonely, something desperate for familiar warmth, even if it burns, is considering it. Listen to me carefully. Lot's wife didn't die because she committed some horrible sin. She died because she looked back. Genesis 19:20 tells us plainly, but Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. One glance. One moment of nostalgia for what used to be. And it cost her everything. God didn't bring you this far to watch you walk backwards into the fire He pulled you from. The second danger is even more insidious. It's the danger of the familiar voice. You think you know danger when you see it. You think you can spot the enemy a mile away. But what if I told you that the most dangerous threats don't come dressed as threats at all? They come dressed as comfort, as familiarity, as the voice that sounds like home. Think about it. When the serpent approached Eve in the garden, he didn't announce himself as evil. He sounded reasonable. He sounded helpful. He positioned his poison as wisdom. Genesis 3:1 says, "Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made." Crafty, not loud, not obvious, crafty. That's why you're in danger right now, chosen one. Because something that sounds like blessing is actually a trap. Something that feels like relief is actually a detour. Something that looks like an open door is actually a revolving door that keeps you spinning in the same painful circle you've been trying to escape. You're walking through a hallway, and there are doors on both sides. One of them is your divine appointment. The other is your greatest deception. And they look identical. How do you know the difference? Because one requires faith, and the other requires compromise. One asks you to trust God's timing, and the other promises you shortcuts. One builds character, and the other bypasses it. The voice of comfort says, "You're too old to start over. Go back to what's familiar." But the voice of God says, "You're right on time for your greatest chapter. Keep moving forward." The voice of loneliness says, "Any company is better than no company." But the voice of the Spirit says, "I am with you, and I'm preparing divine connections worth waiting for." The voice of fear says, "You'll never make it financially. Take that offer, even though you know it compromises your integrity." But the voice of heaven says, "I own the cattle on 1,000 hills. Trust me." And here's what breaks my heart. I've watched too many people just like you, who survived decades of warfare, who climbed mountains of pain, who broke generational curses, who stood when everyone else fell, and they made it 90% of the way to their breakthrough. 90%. But then they got tired, they got lonely, they got desperate, and they opened the wrong door. Which brings me to the third danger, the most silent, the most deadly, the danger of delay. You think the enemy wants to destroy you. No, he tried that already and failed. You're still here, still breathing, still believing. He knows he can't kill you. So he's changed tactics. Now he just wants to delay you. Think about the children of Israel. God promised them a land flowing with milk and honey. 11 days from Egypt to Canaan. 11 days. But fear made them send spies. Doubt made them question God's promise. Delay made them wander in circles for 40 years. And an entire generation died in the wilderness, not because they were evil, but because they delayed stepping into what God had already given them. Numbers 10:34 records the verdict. For 40 years, 1 year for each of the 40 days you explored the land, you will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you. 1 year for every day of delay. That's the mathematics of hesitation. And now I need you to hear this with everything in you. Every day you delay walking away from what's poisoning you is a day stolen from your destiny. Every week you spend entertaining voices that God already told you to silence is a week you'll never get back. Every month you waste trying to resurrect what God buried is a month subtracted from your divine assignment. You don't have 40 years, beloved. You don't have 20. You might not even have 10. Not because I'm prophesying death, but because I'm declaring urgency. Your children need to see you walk in victory before it's too late. Your grandchildren need to inherit blessing, not bondage. This generation needs your testimony, your wisdom, your example of what it looks like to finish strong. The enemy doesn't want to harm you. He wants to delay you until your season passes, until your strength fades, until your voice grows too tired to speak what God gave you to say. But here's what he didn't count on. Here's the part that terrifies hell itself. You're still here. You're still awake. You're still listening, which means the plan to save you is already in motion. So tell me, chosen one, are you ready to stop flirting with familiar danger and start walking toward divine deliverance? You've felt it, haven't you? That restlessness that won't let you sleep past 4 a.m. That heaviness settling on your shoulders like an invisible coat you can't take off. Something in your spirit keeps whispering that things aren't right, but you can't put your finger on what's wrong. Chosen one, that's not anxiety. That's not your imagination running wild in the darkness. That's God. He's been trying to get your attention for weeks now, maybe months. But his voice doesn't come like thunder from the mountaintop anymore. Not at this stage of your journey. At 70, 80, 90 years walking with him, God speaks differently. He whispers. And his whisper is the quiet thunder inside your chest that you've been trying to ignore. Listen to me carefully. When everything in your life suddenly feels off, when conversations with your daughter leave you drained instead of filled, when your son's visits feel obligatory instead of genuine, when even your own home doesn't feel like sanctuary anymore, that's not you being overly sensitive. That's divine discernment activating. Heaven speaks in stillness, not noise. And right now, in the stillness of your spirit, God is warning you. But warning you about what? That's the question that's been eating at you, isn't it? You've been faithful. You've prayed. You've tithed even when the checking account screamed at you not to. You've served in that church for 40 years. You've raised your children in the fear of the Lord. So why does it feel like something's hunting you? Because, beloved, you're on the edge of a breakthrough so massive that hell itself has mobilized to stop it before it manifests. Let me take you to 1 Kings chapter 19. Elijah, the mighty prophet who just called fire down from heaven, who just defeated 450 false prophets, who just proved that the God of Israel is the only true God. This same Elijah is suddenly running for his life. One threat from Queen Jezebel and he's hiding in a cave, begging God to let him die. Does that sound familiar? You've been victorious before. You've seen God move mountains. You've witnessed miracles that should have built your faith for a lifetime. But right now in this season, you feel more like running than fighting, more like hiding than standing, more like giving up than pressing through. Elijah sat in that cave and God asked him a question that I'm asking you right now. What are you doing here? Not, why are you afraid? Not, why did you run? But what are you doing here? In this place of hiding, in this posture of defeat, in this prison of isolation when you were called to stand in power. And here's what breaks my heart. Elijah's answer reveals something that might be your story too. He said, I have been very zealous for the Lord, but I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too. Do you hear it? The only one left. That's the lie that's been playing on repeat in your mind, isn't it? Your church friends have moved on. Your children are too busy. Your spouse is gone. Your generation is dying off one funeral at a time. And you feel like the last soldiers standing on a battlefield where everyone else has already gone home. But God's response to Elijah should shatter that lie right now. He said, "I have reserved 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed to Baal." You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not the last one standing. This is why God is warning you quietly, because isolation is the enemy's favorite weapon against chosen ones in their final season. He knows he can't destroy your faith, so he's trying to destroy your hope by making you feel abandoned. But every time you felt that door close in your face, every friendship that suddenly went cold, every opportunity that vanished overnight, every plan that fell apart at the last minute, God wasn't punishing you. He was protecting you. Proverbs 10:16 says, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Do you know what that means in plain language? It means God has been blocking certain doors, not because you're not qualified, not because you're too old, not because your time has passed, but because there was a trap on the other side that you couldn't see. That business partnership that dissolved. There was betrayal waiting 3 months down the road. That move you wanted to make. That city was about to be hit with flooding that would have wiped you out. That relationship you begged God to restore. That person was about to drag you into darkness you barely survived the first time. God's whisper has been your protection, even when it felt like rejection. But here's what you need to understand about this moment. The warning isn't just about what's behind you, it's about what's ahead. God doesn't send warnings for things that are already over. He sends them for battles that are approaching. And beloved, there's a battle coming that will require you to be more alert, more spiritually sharp, more connected to His voice than you've ever been in your entire life. The danger you feel is real, but the preparation He's been doing inside you is even more real. If you feel this stirring in your spirit right now, if something inside you is confirming every word I'm speaking, type, "I hear you, Lord," in the comments. Not for me, not for the algorithm, for your own spirit, to let heaven know you're awake and you're listening. Because what God is about to reveal in the next few minutes will explain exactly what He's been protecting you from, and why this divine plan that's unfolding right now is the only thing standing between you and total devastation. The whisper is getting louder, chosen one, and it's time to stop ignoring it. You want to know why your life has felt like one long examination with no answer key? Why every time you think you've passed, another trial shows up at your door? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your foundation. You're not being punished, you're being tested. And the test you're in right now is the most dangerous kind, because it doesn't look like a test at all. Think about Abraham for a moment. Genesis 22. God tells him to take Isaac, the son he waited 100 years for, the child of promise, the miracle baby, and sacrifice him on Mount Moriah. Can you imagine? Abraham's 20 years old, climbing a mountain with the one thing that makes his whole life make sense, and God says, "Kill him." That wasn't cruelty. That was testing. God was asking, "Abraham, will you obey me even when obedience looks like insanity? Even when it contradicts every promise I ever made to you?" And Abraham passed, not because he understood, but because he trusted. Now look at Moses, 40 years old, raised in Pharaoh's palace, tries to deliver Israel his way, kills an Egyptian, buries him in the sand, thinks he's the hero. But God says, "Not yet," sends him to the backside of the desert for another 40 years. 80 years old before Moses ever sees that burning bush. The test wasn't, can Moses lead? The test was, can Moses wait? Can he shepherd sheep in obscurity when he was trained to rule an empire? Can he trust God's timing when his own timing failed? He passed, eventually. And Elijah, 1 Kings 19. Fresh off the greatest victory of his life, fire falling from heaven, 40 to 50 false prophets destroyed, the whole nation watching God show up. But one threat from Queen Jezebel, and Elijah's running for his life, hiding in a cave, begging God to let him die. God doesn't rebuke him. God feeds him, strengthens him. Then ask him the question that reveals the real test. What are you doing here, Elijah? The test wasn't about his fear. It was about whether he'd let that fear define his next move. Do you see the pattern, chosen one? Every major figure in Scripture faced a test that looked nothing like victory. It looked like confusion. It looked like delay. It looked like defeat. And right now you're in yours. The test you're facing is subtle, and that's exactly why it's so dangerous. It's not dramatic. It's not obvious. It's the quiet erosion of your faith through unanswered prayers. It's the slow poisoning of your hope through family betrayal. It's the daily grind of waking up and wondering if any of this matters anymore. The enemy isn't attacking you with a sword. He's attacking you with silence. He's banking on you giving up 3 days before your breakthrough. He's counting on you walking away from your calling because it's taking too long. He's betting everything that you'll let bitterness over what was stolen keep you from receiving what's prepared. Your test isn't about whether you can survive the storm. Your test is whether you'll keep believing in sunshine while you're still soaking wet. Let me ask you something that's going to cut to the bone. How many years have you been praying the same prayer? How many times have you asked God for the same breakthrough, the same healing, the same restoration? And how close are you right now to giving up on it? Because here's what the enemy knows that you don't. Your answer is closer than it's ever been. Your deliverance is 3 steps away. Your miracle is standing at your door knocking, and the only thing standing between you and breakthrough is whether you'll open it one more time. Will you obey even when you don't understand? Will you forgive the person who doesn't deserve it? Will you let go of the grudge that feels like the only justice you'll ever get? Will you break the cycle that your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents all lived and died in? The test is a locked room with one window, and that window is your obedience. God isn't asking you to understand the plan. He's asking you to trust the planner. He's not waiting for you to feel ready. He's waiting for you to move while you're terrified. He doesn't need your strength. He needs your surrender. And here's the truth that's going to either liberate you or haunt you. Your next blessing is waiting for your next decision. Not your next emotion. Not your next feeling. Your next decision. That phone call you've been avoiding because pride won't let you make it, that's the test. That apology you owe but refuse to give because you weren't the only one wrong, that's the test. That dream God whispered to you that you've buried under, I'm too old and it's too late, that's the test. Obedience is the window, beloved. And on the other side of that window is everything you've been crying for. But you have to climb through. You have to move. You have to decide that this one time you're going to do what God says, even if it costs you everything, even if nobody understands, even if it looks foolish. Because when you pass this test, you don't just get a blessing. You get promoted. You move into a spiritual authority that hell itself has to respect. You become someone who can't be shaken because you've already been tested and proven. Abraham didn't just get Isaac back. He became the father of faith for every generation after him. Moses didn't just lead Israel out of Egypt. He spoke face to face with God. Elijah didn't just survive Jezebel. He called down fire and outran chariots. The test didn't break them. It made them legendary. And you're being offered the same choice right now. Pass this test, and you're not just surviving. You're becoming the ancestor your great-grandchildren will tell stories about. You're becoming the breakthrough your bloodline has been praying for. But you have to decide today, right now. So let me ask you, and I need you to answer this in your spirit before we go any further. Are you going to quit 3 days before your Red Sea parts? Or are you going to take one more step toward that water and watch God split it wide open? Chosen one, if you're still here, if something in you is rising up and saying, I won't quit, I need you to write it in the comments. Type, "I won't fail this test." Let heaven see your courage. Let the angels record that you made a decision today that changed everything. Because what I'm about to show you next will prove that God has been preparing something so magnificent, so perfectly timed, so specifically designed for you that the enemy had to try to stop you before you ever saw it. The test is real, but so is the reward, and you're closer than you think. Now listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see every closed door, every betrayal, every moment you thought God had abandoned you. You've been asking the wrong question. You've been crying out, "God, why did you let this happen to me?" But heaven has been answering a different question, the one you didn't even know to ask. "God, what are you saving me from?" That son who stopped calling, that daughter who chose her husband's family over yours, that friend who walked away after 40 years. You thought they rejected you. But what if God removed them because they were blocking what He's bringing next? Proverbs 16 says, "A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." You planned family dinners and golden years surrounded by grandchildren. But God directed your steps into isolation because what He's preparing you for requires you to hear His voice above all others. Your betrayals were revelations. Every person who turned their back on you revealed who they really were before God could elevate you. Because when favor comes, and it's coming, you can't carry dead weight into your destiny. The enemy planted them in your life as anchors. God removed them as mercy. That business that failed 20 years ago, you thought it was your greatest loss. But if it had succeeded, you'd be tied to something that would have killed you by now. That marriage that ended, you prayed for restoration, but God saw the cancer growing in that covenant. Your delays were protections. Let me tell you something that's going to shatter your perspective. Every time you thought God said, no, He was actually saying, not that way. Every time you thought He was late, He was actually right on time. Your watch was just set to Earth's time zone instead of heaven's. Think about Joseph, 17 years old with a dream from God. But before the palace, God sent him to the pit. Before the promotion, God sent him to prison. 13 years of betrayal, false accusations, and being forgotten in a dungeon. But Genesis 50:20 reveals the master plan. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Your pit wasn't punishment. Your prison wasn't abandonment. Your silence was instruction. God was teaching you to hear Him in the dark, so when the light comes, you won't be distracted by the applause. But here's what's happening right now that you can't see. Heaven is rearranging your environment like a master chess player moving pieces across the board. While you've been sleeping, God has been working. While you've been crying, He's been creating. While you've been feeling forgotten, He's been orchestrating the most strategic comeback in your family's history. That apartment you lost, God's building you a house. That relationship that died, He's preparing someone who actually deserves you. That bank account that stayed empty, He's about to flood it because He needed you to learn that your source isn't your job, your pension, or your social security. Your source is Him. God is moving puzzle pieces you don't even know exist. That stranger you met in the grocery store last week, strategic placement. That phone call that came out of nowhere, divine appointment. That random thought that keeps coming back to you at 2 a.m., prophetic download. Your story is being edited by a divine hand. And what He's cutting out isn't punishment. It's preparation for a plot twist so magnificent that when it happens, even your enemies will have to admit that God is real. But I need you to understand something crucial. This plan will save you if you don't walk away from it. The enemy's final strategy isn't to kill you. It's to convince you to quit 3 feet from gold. To make you give up one day before the breakthrough. to persuade you that nothing's going to change, so you might as well make peace with mediocrity. That's why the warfare has been so intense lately. That's why the depression has been heavier. That's why the doubt has been louder. Hell knows what heaven is about to release, and if the enemy can't stop God's plan, he'll try to stop your faith in it. But look at where you are right now, still breathing, still believing, still watching this message. That's not willpower, beloved. That's supernatural grace. You've survived what should have killed you because you're under divine protection for divine purpose. Moses was 80 when his real assignment began. Abraham was 100 when he held Isaac. Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations. Anna was 84 when she recognized the Messiah. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. What you call your final chapter, God calls your finest hour. Here's the climax that should stop you in your tracks. Nothing you lost compares to what is coming toward you. Not the house, not the marriage, not the career, not the relationships, not the dreams you buried. What died was seasonal. What's coming is eternal. Job lost everything: his children, his wealth, his health, his reputation. But Job 4:2-10 records what happened next. The Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Twice as much. Double for your trouble. Compensation for your suffering. Vindication for your faithfulness. That's your story being written right now. God is about to give you twice what the enemy stole. Double the joy for the years of sorrow. Double the peace for the decades of chaos. Double the favor for the lifetime of rejection. But the question that will determine everything is this: will you trust the plan when you can't see the process? Will you believe the promise when your circumstances scream otherwise? Will you hold on when letting go would be easier? Because what happens next requires more than hope. It requires holy stubbornness. The kind of faith that says, I don't care what it looks like, God said it, and that settles it. Are you ready to stop fighting God's plan and start flowing with it? You know what breaks my heart? It's not the big tragedies that make the news. It's the quiet ones. The ones that happen at kitchen tables at 2 a.m. when nobody's watching. The ones that happen in beds that used to hold laughter but now only hold ghosts of what was. I'm talking about you, sitting there right now, wondering when you became invisible to the very people you gave your life to raise. Let me ask you something, and I need you to be honest with yourself. When was the last time your phone rang and it was your child calling just to hear your voice? Not because they need money, not because something broke, not because there's a crisis, just because they missed you. How long has it been? That silence, that deafening, soul-crushing silence that's not random, chosen one. That ache in your chest when you see other families gathering while yours scatters like dust in the wind. That's not coincidence. That feeling of being a burden in the very rooms you once commanded with love and authority. That wasn't supposed to be your legacy. But here you are, 70, 80, maybe 90 years breathing, and somehow you feel more alone than you did at 20. You did everything right, didn't you? You sacrificed. You provided. You prayed over their beds when they were babies. You worked double shifts so they could have what you never had. You swallowed your own dreams so theirs could breathe. And now they're too busy to return a phone call. The Bible tells us in Psalm 20:20, though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. But that doesn't make the forsaking hurt any less, does it? David wrote those words with tears, not theology. He wrote them from the cave, not the castle. He knew what it felt like to be abandoned by the ones who should have stood closest. You thought you were the problem. You've spent years wondering what you did wrong, replaying conversations, analyzing moments, asking God why He let you become the forgotten one when you spent your whole life making sure others were remembered. But listen to me carefully, that breaking you felt, that wasn't your ending, that was your becoming. See, there's something the enemy doesn't want you to understand about pain. He wants you to believe it's proof that God has abandoned you. He wants you to think your loneliness is punishment. He wants you to die believing you were a failure as a parent, as a spouse, as a human being. That's a lie from the pit of hell. You weren't broken down, you were broken open. And there's a massive difference. Think about a seed. When you plant it in the ground, something violent has to happen before anything beautiful can emerge. That hard outer shell, the one that protected the seed, that kept it safe, that held it together, it has to crack. It has to split. It has to break completely apart. To anyone watching from the outside, it looks like death. It looks like the end. But that breaking, that's the birthplace of the tree. Job understood this in ways most people never will. This man lost everything, his children dead, his wealth gone, his health destroyed. His wife looked at him sitting in ashes, covered in sores, and told him to curse God and die. His own friends showed up not to comfort him, but to accuse him. They sat there and told him his suffering must be his fault. Job 2:3 says, "Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him, because they saw how great his suffering was. 7 days of silence. 7 nights of judgment wrapped in the disguise of companionship." You've had your 7 days, haven't you? Maybe 7 years, maybe 7 decades. Sitting in your own ashes while people who were supposed to love you either blamed you or forgot you entirely. But here's what Job discovered that you're about to discover. That pain was the birthplace of his power. When God finally spoke to Job, he didn't explain the suffering. He revealed the purpose. Job 4:2 declares, "The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part." The latter part, not the beginning. The end. Your latter days are not your leftover days, chosen one. They're your loaded days. Everything you've been through, every tear you've cried into pillows that don't answer back, every holiday you spent alone while your children celebrated somewhere else, it was loading you with authority that only comes through fire. You thought the loneliness was killing you. It was consecrating you. You thought the rejection was proof you didn't matter. It was proof that what you carry is so valuable that hell had to isolate you to try to steal it. But here's what the enemy didn't count on. Here's what he didn't see coming. You're still here. After everything that should have destroyed you, the abandonment, the betrayal, the bone-deep loneliness that makes you question if you were ever truly loved, you're still breathing. You're still believing. You're still fighting. That's not human strength, beloved. That's divine Dina activating in your darkest hour. Isaiah 4:2 promises, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." Notice it doesn't say if. It says when. God knew the fire was coming. He saw the flood approaching, and he didn't stop it, he walked through it with you. That pain was the birthplace of your power. Every sleepless night taught you how to pray when words fail. Every disappointment refined your discernment. Every person who walked away made room for the divine assignment that requires you to walk alone for a season. You weren't abandoned by God. You were appointed by him. Chosen one, if you're still standing after everything hell threw at you, if something in your chest refuses to quit even when quitting would be easier, if you just know that this message is the turning point you've been crying out for, type, "I still stand," right now. Because what's coming next will prove that your breaking wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your authority. Remember what I told you at the beginning. You are under spiritual observation. But what I didn't tell you, what heaven held back until this exact moment, is who has been watching. Angels, warrior angels, the kind that don't just observe, they intervene. Right now, as you're hearing my voice, there are forces in motion that your natural eyes cannot see. Hebrews 1:4 asks, "Are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for those who will inherit salvation?" Sent forth. Past tense. They're already moving, already positioning, already fighting battles you won't know about until you reach eternity and God shows you the replays. You think you've been alone. You've never been alone. You've been escorted. Every time you should have had that accident on the expressway but somehow avoided it, that wasn't luck. Every time the doctor said the test results should have been worse but came back clear, that wasn't chance. Every time you walked to the edge of giving up and something invisible pulled you back from the cliff, that was angelic intervention. But here's what's going to shake you to your core. The danger you're facing right now. The attacks that have intensified. The spiritual warfare that's reached levels you've never experienced before. That's not evidence that God abandoned you. It's evidence that heaven has marked you for promotion, and hell is throwing everything it has at you to stop what's coming. When angels show up, demons panic. When heaven dispatches help, darkness knows its time is short. Look at Daniel chapter 10. This man prayed, and for 21 days, 3 full weeks, nothing happened. Silence, emptiness. The kind of quiet that makes you question if God even heard you. But then an angel appears and tells him something that should stop you in your tracks. Daniel, from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God, your words were heard. And I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. Did you catch that? From the first day his prayer was heard. The answer was dispatched immediately. But there was warfare in the heavenly realm that Daniel couldn't see. Angels fighting demons. Light battling darkness. All while Daniel sat in the natural realm thinking God had forgotten him. You've been praying for how long now? 6 months, 2 years, a decade, and you thought the silence meant no. You thought the delay meant God wasn't listening. But what if right now, in this very moment, the angel assigned to your breakthrough is in the final round of warfare, and your answer is about to break through? What if heaven's army is already walking ahead of you, clearing the path, removing obstacles, binding the spirits that have been blocking your destiny? Your name has been spoken in the halls of light, not whispered, spoken, declared. Your situation has been brought before the throne of the Almighty, and the verdict has been rendered. Help is already on the way. But here's where it gets supernatural. Here's where the mystery unfolds. The danger you're facing isn't just random spiritual attack. It's strategic. The enemy knows that once you step into what God has for you, entire bloodlines will be liberated. Generational curses will shatter. Demonic strongholds that have terrorized your family for 100 years will collapse. So he's throwing everything at you now, before the breakthrough, before the elevation, before you fully wake up to who you are and what you carry. But beloved, I'm here to tell you something that hell doesn't want you to know. The outcome of this battle was decided before it even started. Revelation 2:1 declares, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." Overcame. Past tense. The victory isn't coming, it already happened 2,000 years ago on a cross at Calvary. You're not fighting for victory. You're fighting from victory. Every attack against your health, angels are dispatching healing. Every assault on your finances, heaven is releasing provision. Every weapon formed against your family, it will not prosper, because Isaiah 4:20 isn't a suggestion, it's a divine decree. The danger cannot destroy you because the divine plan has already started saving you. Think about this. When the angel appeared to Gideon, Israel was being terrorized by the Midianites. They were hiding in caves, starving, defeated, hopeless. And this angel walks up to Gideon, a man threshing wheat in a winnowpress because he's so afraid, and says, "The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor." Mighty man of valor, Gideon was hiding in a hole. But the angel didn't see who Gideon was, he saw who Gideon was about to become. He saw the warrior hidden beneath the fear. He saw the deliverer disguised as a coward. And right now, heaven is looking at you the same way, not seeing your current circumstances, not seeing your fear, your doubt, your exhaustion, seeing the warrior you're about to become, seeing the deliverer that's about to rise, seeing the chosen one who's about to step into authority that will make demons flee at the mention of your name. Your bedroom is about to become a war room. Your prayers are about to become decrees. Your tears are about to become fuel for the fire that burns away every chain the enemy wrapped around your destiny. Psalm 1 promises, "For he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways." Charge. Military language. Order. Assignments. There are angels right now who have received direct orders from the commander of heaven's army. Guard them. Protect them. Clear the path. Remove every obstacle. This one is mine, and their time has come. The danger you felt was real, but the help that's coming is more real. The attacks were intense, but the angelic intervention is more intense. The enemy was strategic, but God's plan is unstoppable. If you feel this shift right now, if something in your spirit just broke free, if you can sense the atmosphere changing around you, if you know without a doubt that heaven just responded to your crisis, write this in the comments. I am covered. Not as a wish, as a declaration, as a prophetic announcement that you are no longer operating as a victim of circumstance, but as a warrior under divine protection. But the question that will determine everything is this: now that you know help is already on the way, what are you going to do while the angels finish the battle? There's a room inside you that nobody's been allowed to enter. Not your spouse, not your children, not even you. Inside every chosen one is a room God keeps locked until the moment you're ready. And beloved, your moment just arrived. You feel it, don't you? That door you've walked past for 70, 80 years, the one you pretended wasn't there, it's trembling on its hinges right now. Something on the other side is pressing to get out. Or maybe something is pressing to get in. Let me tell you what's in that room. It's not pretty. It's not Instagram worthy. It's the conversation you never had with your father before he died. It's the apology you never received from the person who shattered your trust. It's the dream you buried alive at 23 because someone told you to be realistic. It's the version of yourself you abandoned to become who everyone else needed you to be. That room holds your unfinished grief, your swallowed rage, your silent screams, your "I'm fine" when you were dying inside. And God, the God who sees everything, knows everything, feels everything, He's been standing outside that door your entire life, waiting, not to judge what's inside, to heal it. Jeremiah 30:10 says, "I will restore health to you and heal your wounds, declares the Lord." But here's what breaks my heart. You can't heal what you won't feel. You can't restore what you refuse to remember. And that room you've kept locked, it's become a tome instead of a treasure chest. Why couldn't you move forward all these years? Why does every new relationship feel haunted by old ghosts? Why does joy feel suspicious? Like a trap waiting to spring. Because, beloved, God needed to heal what you hid before He could release what He promised. The enemy told you that room was your shame. God says it's your sanctuary. Think about the woman at the well in John chapter 4, 5 husbands. Living with a man who wasn't her husband. She came to draw water at noon, the hottest part of the day, because she couldn't face the other women. She was hiding in plain sight, walking past the locked room of her own heart every single day. But when Jesus met her there, He didn't condemn her. He didn't shame her. He looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Go, call your husband." He made her open the door, not to humiliate her, but to liberate her. And do you know what happened? She became the first evangelist. She ran back to the village she'd been hiding from and said, "Come, see a man who told me everything I ever did." Everything. The word in Greek is panta, absolutely everything. Nothing hidden, nothing locked away. Her freedom didn't come from hiding better. It came from being fully known and still fully loved. That's what God is doing with you right now, chosen one. He's not exposing you to embarrass you. He's revealing you to restore you. There's a difference between being exposed and being healed, and you're about to learn it. Your children don't call because they don't know how to talk to someone who won't talk about real things. Your friends drifted away because intimacy requires vulnerability, and you've been living behind locked doors for decades. Even your prayers feel hollow because you're talking to God about everything except what's in that room. But tonight, right now, this very moment, God is turning the handle. Psalm 140:3 tells us, He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Not He will heal someday. He heals present tense, active, happening now. But you have to let Him into the room where the breaking happened. I know what you're thinking. If I open that door, I'll fall apart. If I let myself feel what I've been avoiding, it'll destroy me. But beloved, you're already falling apart. You're just doing it slowly, privately, in a way that looks acceptable to everyone watching. What if falling apart in God's presence is actually how you get put back together? What if the breaking open is the only way the light gets in? David understood this. When he finally stopped running from his sin with Bathsheba, when he finally opened the locked room of his adultery and murder, he wrote Psalm 3:7, "The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise." God doesn't despise your brokenness. He inhabits it. He moves into the very room you thought would repel Him. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul. That room won't stay unlocked forever. There's a window of readiness, a Kairos moment when heaven says, "Now," and your spirit is soft enough to respond. If you harden your heart, if you slam that door shut again, you might spend another decade, another 20 years carrying weight you were never meant to bear. And beloved, at your age, do you really have another decade to waste on hiding? I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to save you from the slow death of living with locked rooms in your spirit, from dying with your songs still inside you, from standing before Jesus one day and realizing you spent your whole life running from the very healing He was chasing you with. Right now, if you feel the door opening, if your chest is tight, if tears are forming that you haven't cried in years, it's something ancient and buried is stirring. I need you to do something brave. Type, "I'm ready for healing" in the comments. Not because I need to see it, because you need to declare it. Because heaven is waiting for your yes. This is the first time in years you felt truly safe enough to be honest. This moment, this message, this is your divine interruption. The room is opening, chosen one, and what God is about to do inside it will explain everything. But will you let Him in? You didn't survive that season because you were strong. You survived because God intervened when you didn't even see the trap. Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. That moment 3 years ago when you almost went back to that toxic relationship, the one that nearly destroyed you the first time. You thought you just changed your mind. You didn't. Heaven intercepted the phone call before your finger hit send. That sudden headache that made you put the phone down, that wasn't random. That was divine interference. It was like stepping toward the edge of a subway platform at rush hour and a hand you couldn't see pulled you back just as the express train roared past. You've been living inches from disaster without even knowing it. Listen to me, beloved. The enemy has been setting traps for you with surgical precision. Not obvious ones, he's too smart for that. He knows you'd recognize a demon if it showed up with horns and a pitchfork. No, he sent traps wrapped in familiarity, disguised as comfort, hidden inside voices that sounded like they cared. The first trap was emotional manipulation. That family member who kept pulling you back into their chows. The one who knew exactly which buttons to push, which wounds to reopen, which guilt to leverage. Every time you tried to establish boundaries, they cried victim. Every time you tried to heal, they reminded you of your failures. You thought you were being loving. You were being drained. Proverbs 4:23 warns us, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. But how do you guard your heart when the attack comes from your own bloodline? You couldn't. That's why God had to do it for you. Remember when that person suddenly moved away, when their phone number mysteriously changed, when circumstances shifted so dramatically that contact became impossible. You thought it was coincidence. It was divine extraction. God literally rearranged geography to save your soul. The second trap was spiritual fatigue. You've been praying the same prayers for so long your voice sounds tired even to yourself. You've been believing for breakthrough until belief itself feels like another burden to carry. The enemy whispered, God doesn't hear you. You're wasting your breath. Your faith has an expiration date, and you've passed it. And somewhere around 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, you almost believed him. You almost stopped praying. Almost gave up on the promises. Almost convinced yourself that radical faith was for younger people with less disappointment in their rearview mirror. But then something strange happened. You woke up the next morning and inexplicably, impossibly, you prayed anyway. Where did that strength come from? Not from you. Isaiah 40:20 tells us, He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. That prayer you prayed when you had nothing left, that wasn't your strength. That was borrowed power from the throne room. God was breathing through your exhaustion. The third trap, and this one cuts deepest, was the temptation to return to a past version of yourself. Not a person, not a place, but a pattern. That old coping mechanism that used to numb the pain. That familiar escape route your mind knew by heart. The enemy didn't need to tempt you with anything new. He just had to remind you how good the old poison used to taste. You stood at that crossroads longer than anyone knows. Hours that felt like days. Days that felt like years. The pull was magnetic. The justification was ready. I'm too old to start over clean. I'm too tired to keep fighting. What difference does it really make? And right there, right at the moment of surrender, something shifted. A scripture you hadn't thought about in 20 years suddenly flooded your mind. A memory of your grandmother's prayers rose up like a shield. A strength you didn't possess filled your chest like iron. You walked away from that edge, and you thought you made the choice. You didn't. 1 Corinthians 10:10 promises, God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out. That way out, God built it while you were still walking toward the trap. Heaven rerouted the enemy's plan long before you even knew it existed. Think about Daniel in the lion's den. He didn't tame those lions. God shut their mouths. Daniel just had to stand there and let the miracle happen around him. You've been Daniel, chosen one. You've been standing in dens you didn't even recognize, surrounded by threats your natural eyes couldn't see, while God's hand covered the mouths of every beast that wanted to devour you. You were rescued before you even asked for rescue. That job you didn't get that you cried about for weeks. The company went bankrupt 6 months later. That house you lost in foreclosure. It was built on a flood zone. The next family lost everything. That friend who ghosted you without explanation. You found out later they were arrested for fraud. Every closed door you mourned was actually a brick wall God built between you and destruction. You've been complaining about unanswered prayers when God's been answering them in ways that saved your life. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been rescued, delivered, and protected, and you didn't even know enough to say thank you. Not because you're ungrateful, because the warfare was so covert, the salvation so subtle, you thought you were just getting lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it. You're still here because mercy covered you. You're still sane because grace held you. You're still breathing because purpose won't let you go. Now that you know what God saved you from, the question burning in the atmosphere is this: what is He saving you for? Listen to me, chosen one. I'm about to tell you something that's going to shatter everything you thought you knew about the last 10 years of your life. What you thought was the enemy attacking was actually God aligning. I know that sounds impossible right now. I know you're sitting there looking at the wreckage of your life. The divorce papers, the estranged children, the church that turned its back on you. The bank account that never seems to grow no matter how hard you pray. You've been calling it warfare. You've been calling it the devil's assault. You've been wondering why God would allow such relentless attack against someone who's been faithful for 70, 80 years. But what if I told you that you've been reading the map upside down? The storm wasn't chasing you, it was guiding you. Think about the children of Israel at the Red Sea. Pharaoh's army behind them, mountains on either side, water in front of them. Trapped, cornered, about to be slaughtered. Everything looked like the enemy's victory. But Exodus 10:4 says something that will blow your mind. God told Moses, I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. But I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army. Did you catch that? God orchestrated the very chase that looked like destruction. Why? Because he needed them at the exact spot where he could part the sea. He needed them cornered so they would witness the impossible. He needed them trapped so they would stop trusting their own strategy and surrender to his. Your Red Sea moment wasn't punishment. It was positioning. Every closed door you've been mourning, that was God's hand protecting you from a room that would have poisoned you. Every relationship that fell apart, that was divine surgery removing what would have infected your destiny. Every financial setback that left you counting pennies, that was heaven teaching you that your provision doesn't come from Wall Street. It comes from the one who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. The delay made you stronger. Can you see that now? If that promotion had come 20 years ago, would you have had the character to handle it? If that business had succeeded when you first started it, would you have had the wisdom to sustain it? If those people had stayed in your life, would you have learned to hear God's voice above the noise of human opinion? God wasn't withholding from you. He was developing in you. But here's where it cuts deeper. Here's where the truth gets personal. The silence taught you discernment. Those years when heaven felt locked, when your prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling, when you cried out and heard nothing but your own echo, you thought God had abandoned you. But Psalm 21 says, To you, Lord, I call. You are my rock. Do not turn a deaf ear to me. He wasn't deaf, beloved. He was training your ear to recognize his voice in the quiet. Because the assignment he's about to give you requires someone who can hear whispers in war rooms, who can sense direction in the dark, who can discern spirits when everyone else is being deceived by appearances. You needed the silence to develop spiritual sonar. And the rejection, oh, the rejection, the friends who walked away, the family members who stopped calling, the church members who whispered behind your back. You thought people walked away because you failed. You thought they left because you weren't good enough, spiritual enough, successful enough. No, they walked away because they couldn't follow you to this level. Let me say that again because your wounded heart needs to hear it. They didn't leave because you were falling. They left because you were rising into an altitude their spirits couldn't handle. Your frequency changed. Your assignment upgraded. Your anointing intensified. And people who are comfortable in the shallow end will always resent those who dare to swim in the deep. 2 Timothy 4:10 records Paul's words, Demas, because he loved this world, has deserted me. Even Paul, the greatest apostle, was abandoned by people he trusted. Not because Paul failed, but because Demas couldn't carry the weight of the calling Paul carried. Your loneliness wasn't rejection, it was refinement. It was God removing everyone who would have talked you out of your destiny. Everyone who would have kept you comfortable when He needed you consecrated. Everyone who would have applauded your survival when He was preparing you for revival. The very things that broke you were the tools God used to build you. That heart attack at 67, it slowed you down long enough to hear what speed was drowning out. That betrayal by your business partner, it taught you that your security isn't in human contracts, it's in covenant with the Almighty. That season of depression that nearly took you out, it gave you the compassion to pull others back from the edge you almost jumped from. Job understood this mystery. Job 23:10 records his revelation in the furnace, but he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. Job didn't say if he's tested. He said when, and he didn't say he'd come forth damaged. He said he'd come forth as gold. Gold isn't made in comfort, chosen one. It's refined in fire, and the hotter the fire, the purer the gold. Your life hasn't been harder than others because God loves you less. Your life has been harder because you're carrying more calling, more anointing, more purpose, more destiny. The attack you've been fighting was actually the alignment you've been praying for. So let me ask you something that's going to shift everything. What if you stopped resisting what happened and started receiving what it produced? What if you stopped asking God why it happened and started asking Him what it built? What if the greatest tragedy of your life was that you survived the crucible but never stepped into the authority it created? Because here's what I need you to understand as we move forward: the danger isn't over. But now you know why it came. And when you understand the why, you can finally embrace the what's next. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. While you've been sitting in that living room wondering if God forgot your address, while you've been lying awake at 3 a.m. questioning if your prayers even make it past the ceiling, while you've been watching younger generations get their breakthroughs and wondering if your season already past, something has been happening in the courts of heaven that will shatter every doubt you've ever carried. The decision about your life has already been made in heaven, and it is in your favor. I'm not talking about some distant, maybe someday blessing. I'm talking about a verdict that was hammered down in the throne room before you woke up this morning. Your name, yes, your name has been written in the book of remembrance. Malachi 3:6 tells us, "Then those who feared the Lord talked with each other, and the Lord listened and heard. A scroll of remembrance was written in His presence concerning those who feared the Lord and honored His name." Every tear you cried when nobody was watching, recorded. Every prayer you whispered through gritted teeth when faith felt like sandpaper on your soul, collected in golden bowls before the throne. Every moment you chose to trust God when your bank account screamed otherwise, when your body betrayed you, when your own children turned their backs, heaven took notes. Your obedience has become incense before the throne. But here's what breaks my heart and should ignite your spirit. You've been believing the lie that your best years are behind you. You've been listening to a culture that measures worth by productivity and relevance by age. You've been accepting the narrative that at 70, 80, 90 years old, you should be winding down, settling in, accepting less. That is a demonic deception straight from the pit of hell. Moses was 80 when God called him to split seas and deliver nations. Abraham was 99 when the promise showed up at his door. Sarah laughed at 90 because she forgot that with God, biology bows to destiny. Caleb was 85 when he looked at a mountain full of giants and said, "Give me that hill country, not give me a rocking chair. Not give me peace and quiet. Give me the biggest battle left to fight." Your age does not disqualify you, it amplifies your calling. You want to know why you're still here. You want to know why you survived that heart attack, that cancer diagnosis. that depression that should have taken you out. You want to know why you're still breathing when friends who seem stronger have already gone home. Because the assignment written in heaven over your life requires everything you've accumulated. Every scar, every sermon you learned in silence, every night you worshipped through tears, every moment you chose forgiveness when bitterness would have been easier, the wisdom earned through 6, 7, 8 decades of walking with God cannot be downloaded, cannot be taught in seminary, cannot be faked by youth and enthusiasm. The years behind you are not wasted, they are the proof of endurance. Think about gold, beloved. You don't pull gold from the ground and immediately place it in a king's crown. You heat it. You melt it. You burn away the impurities. You hammer it, you shape it. The longer the process, the purer the gold. The hotter the fire, the more valuable the metal. That's you, that's your story. Every financial struggle was burning away your dependence on earthly security. Every health battle was teaching you that your strength comes from another realm. Every relationship that crumbled was removing what would have held you back from your highest calling. Every closed door was God's hand protecting you from settling for good when He had great waiting. This is the divine plan unfolding in real time. Right now, as these words wash over your spirit, something is shifting in the atmosphere around your life. Can you feel it? That electric charge in the air, that weight on your chest that's not oppression but presence. That's the glory of God hovering over you like it hovered over the waters in Genesis, preparing to speak your new reality into existence. Heaven has been watching you, not with disappointment, not with frustration, with anticipation. Like a coach watching his fighter take punch after punch, waiting for the moment when that fighter remembers who they are and starts swinging back. Your moment is now. Revelation 2:10 declares, "Be faithful even to the point of death, and I will give you life as your victor's crown." You've been faithful through decades of death, death of dreams, death of relationships, death of expectations. But God doesn't leave His faithful ones empty-handed. He crowns them. And here's the part that should make you stand to your feet right now. Heaven has crowned you in the very place life tried to crush you. That living room where you've cried alone, that's your throne room now. That kitchen table where you've wrestled with God at midnight, that's your altar of authority. That hospital bed where you learned to trust Him in the dark, that's where your crown was forged. The enemy thought he was destroying you in those places, but God was positioning you. Because the greatest authority comes from the deepest valleys. The most powerful testimonies are born in the darkest nights. The strongest warriors are made in the fiercest battles. You are not a victim of your circumstances, chosen one. You are a crowned heir of the Most High God, and the crown you're wearing was purchased by every tear you refused to let break you, every disappointment you refused to let define you, every attack you refused to let destroy you. The decision has been made. The verdict is in. Heaven has spoken over your life, and what God has decided, hell cannot overturn. But here's the question that will determine everything about your next chapter. Now that you know heaven has crowned you, will you finally start walking like royalty? Chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred moment together, I need you to carry 3 truths with you like treasures in your pocket. First, the danger you've been feeling is real, but so is the divine plan to save you. Heaven has already made its decision about your life, and it is in your favor. Second, your age is not your limitation, it's your authorization. Every year you've lived, every battle you've survived, every tear you've shed has been building the authority you carry right now. And third, you are not forgotten, not forsaken, not finished. You are crowned in the very place life tried to crush you. But beloved, you are not walking this road alone. The God who called you is still working in your life at this very moment. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you now. And beyond that, you have a community right here. Thousands of chosen ones just like you who understand your struggles. who've walked through their own fires, who are ready to stand with you in prayer. So let me ask you this. Now that you know heaven has crowned you, now that you understand the danger was only confirmation of your calling, what will you do with this revelation? Before you close this video, I want you to do something. Comment below and tell us what God spoke to your heart today. Ask for prayer, we will surround you. Share your testimony, someone needs to hear it. And please, share this message with someone who's struggling right now. Someone who needs to know they're not alone, that their season isn't over, that God still has a plan. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. This isn't just content, this is a family, a movement of awakened warriors who refuse to go quietly into the night. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart. Thank you for being brave enough to believe that maybe, just maybe, your greatest chapter is still ahead. Now let me pray over you. Close your eyes, place your hand on your heart, and receive this. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every precious soul hearing these words. You see them, Lord, not just their struggles, but their strength. Not just their scars, but their crown. Father, I pray you would breathe fresh wind into their weary spirits. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they're engraved on your palms. Where they feel weak, pour out supernatural strength. Where they feel attacked, surround them with warrior angels. Open doors no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't thought to ask for. Restore relationships the enemy tried to destroy. Heal bodies that doctors have given up on. Speak peace over anxious minds. Pour abundance into empty accounts. Most of all, Father, let them feel your presence right now. Let them know in their bones that they are loved, they are chosen, they are crowned, and they are never, ever alone. The danger was real, but your plan is greater. Their waiting is over. Their warfare is ending. Their coronation has begun. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Now go, crowned one. Walk in your authority. You are not alone, you are not forgotten, and your story is far from over.